Hello, good evening, and thank you so much for joining Ark Burlington Danes Year 9 Options Evening today. It's an incredibly important evening, as you'll be hearing from Mr. Haylock and Miss Morris throughout. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Haylock very shortly for a welcome and introductions before we hear a bit more of the detail of the curriculum and options process from Miss Morris. As I've put into the Q&A, please do feel free to type questions at any point. There will be a dedicated period towards the end of the meeting where we answer any of those questions that haven't already been covered. So I'm going to hand over very shortly to Mr. Haylock, who's going to be introducing the evening and the importance thereof. Thank you, Mr. Haylock, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Williamson, for that introduction. So welcome to our options evening this evening. It's always a great time in your educational career when you have the opportunity for the first time to really choose what it is that you want to study and think about some of the subjects which you're really keen on and we're really excited on, and those subjects where you're really interested in finding out kind of where they will go and where they will take you and potentially onto university and all of those things. Now, before I start talking, or Miss Morris specifically starts talking about the actual options process, I'd like to remind you of our school vision, because the school vision is a really key part of what we do, and it's a really key part of our kind of philosophy. So, Miss Williamson, if you're able to change the slide. So, this is our vision and values. This is what we stand for, and it comes from to start with the Bible quote from John 10:10, which is, "I have come that you may have life and have it in all its fullness." This is what your options process is about. At Ark Burlington Danes Academy, we believe that everyone deserves to be accepted, included, and empowered to live a life that is purposeful and fulfilling. Through learning to our fullest potential and living a life filled with kindness and thankfulness, we can be the ones to make the world a better place. As I said to all of Key Stage 3 in my assembly earlier this week, that last little bit of quote comes from Nelson Mandela, who really was a person who made the world a better place. So our Ark values are really key in terms of our expectations. We really want you to aim high, to be kind, to be brave, and to keep learning. And the first one and the fourth one, are very much about what this options process is about. We want you to aim high. We want you to keep learning. And that is why we have a strong academic curriculum. We know that this will take you onto university and into a career of your choice. It empowers our students to make the world a better place. It is very much focused on what are called the facilitating subjects. What these subjects do is they facilitate your future career. Simple as that. English, maths, the sciences, humanities such as history and geography, and languages such as French. They are the key subjects within what's called the EBAC, the English Baccalaureate. Now, we are aiming and do have in year 10 a 75% entrance into the EBAC at GCSE. Now, just to be really clear, the EBAC is not a single qualification. The English Baccalaureate is not a single qualification. It is a set of qualifications that includes English literature and English language, maths, at least double science, one of history or geography, if not both, if you wish, and a language, which for us would be French. And these are the qualifications that universities and employers value the most. There are then a number of other fantastic qualifications that we have that sit within our vocational and creative and academic pathways to give students some choice in terms of their GCSE options. But our expectation is that the vast majority of students will do the EBAC and they will study those kind of 5 key subject areas. We have a fully inclusive curriculum. We know our students well and we will guide them to the pathway that gives them the best chance of success. And as Miss Morris will talk about how that process works shortly. Beyond our examinations and our GCSEs and our BTECs, we have what's called our non-examined curriculum. This is the things that the students learn beyond the curriculum, whether it be trips and enrichment, whether it be their PSHE sessions, whether it be information they learn about the news or being a global citizen, whether it be their relationships and sex education. All of those things will continue through their GCSE period, through their Key Stage 4 lessons and so on, and along with core PE. So they have a broad and balanced curriculum that covers all of the key areas of the national curriculum, and also beyond this into the non-examined curriculum as well. Thank you, Ms. Williamson. And this is what has led to our results, and we've seen a huge improvement over the last 3 or 4 years. Previously, our progress was slightly below national average. That's what the P8 or Progress 8 stands for. National average is 0. As you can see, for 2020-2021, our progress has been excellent. It's been 0.31, 0.47, which we know makes us a solidly good school. The progress is based on our attainment and the improvement in our attainment, and we have seen an improvement in our results both overall in all of the GCSEs, in the improvement in the students achieving a 9 to 4 grade in English and Maths, because those of you who may be aware, the grades have changed recently, so there are no more A stars to C. We'll talk about grades 9 to 4, so a 9 being an A double star, a 7 being the equivalent of an A, and a grade 4 being the equivalent of a C. However, we really want students to get what's called a strong pass, which is a grade 5 or above. And last year, again, in the last 2 years, we've seen a really good improvement in the percentage of students achieving a strong pass in both English and Maths. And you can also see there that we've had an improvement in our EBAC score, our overall performance, from 22, almost doubling, up to 41%. So we're really pleased with our performance at Key Stage 4, our performance in terms of our GCSE results, and we know that we have got a lot more of our students staying into our sixth form, which has been fantastic. Then at Key Stage 5, in some ways we've done even better. So we've increased our scores of 3A star to B, just up to above 40%, 44% last year. Our 3A star to C has increased up to 80%, but an increase in our average point score. And most importantly, with our Key Stage 5 students, we've seen a huge increase in the number of students going on to university, and specifically onto Russell Group University, which are those that are qualified as some of the best in the country. So last year we had nearly 50%, 49% of students secured a Russell Group University place, and this is better than the average for private schools, which is sometimes in a region of about 25 to 30%. So this is something that we're incredibly proud of, and something that we will be pushing even further into the future to make sure that students are really getting onto the best universities, the best courses, and being a real success. And the answer to that is why. In the long run, it comes down to earning more money, quite frankly, and that will help you out in your future. So you can see here the average starting salaries, the average real world salaries for our students who leave nationally the different types of universities. So if you were to go onto a Russell Group University, your average starting salary is around £41,000. Your average non-graduate starting salary is around £16,786. Your average graduate, if you're from a different university, is about £23,000. And your average London graduate starting salary is about £28,000. So you can see there's still a big difference between graduating from one university or graduating from a Russell Group University, in the region of a £12,000 difference in terms of their starting salary. So there's a huge difference in terms of the amount of potential earnings that you have at the beginning of your career, just by making the right choices and going on to the right universities to do the right courses. And how does this relate to the real world? Well, this is the type of thing that will be coming across your door as a kind of 22, 23-year-old when you leave university and move on with the rest of your life. So there's a good chance that you'll be paying something in the region of £900 to £1,000 in terms of rent and bills. Then you've got the cost of your food. Most of you, I suspect, will have a phone. Other bits and pieces that you'll need comes in at around £270 a month. Travel. London's an expensive place to travel around. You don't have your free Oyster card when you get to the age of 22, 23. So it will cost you about £150 a month, most likely. Some of you might go to the gym, or you might do something else in terms of entertainment, etc. But as you can see there, there's not a lot of money in those bottom three columns that take you up to £27,000, £542.91. So that tends to be the average amount of gross salary that you need to be able to take you through into the before you even move on onto anything else. Ms. Williamson, if we could go back to the previous slide, it'll give people a chance to compare that to some of the salaries potentially. I'm not sure if we're able to do that. Thank you, Ms. Williamson. So as you can see there, that more or less would put you, if you were starting on an average London graduate salary, saving about £100 a month, or £100 a year even, considering all of the particular costs you've got. So the key thing for me is the options process is absolutely crucial. It is so important in making sure that you make the right choices at the right times to get you onto the right courses in your future career. If we can move through, Ms. Williamson. So I'm hoping I'm going to pass over to Ms. Morris to talk through our Key Stage 4 curriculum and options process. At the moment, I cannot see her on the call, so I'm hoping that she's about to click on. Back over to you, Ms. Williamson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Haylock. I think Miss Morris is just having a couple of problems joining at the moment. So just a reminder, we've had a few more people join us since I said this previously. Thank you to everybody who's been putting questions into the chat so far. As I've said, we will make sure there's an opportunity to answer any of those questions during the course of the evening. We won't necessarily answer those straight away, but the answers might come up while we're going through the process, or if not, then we will make sure that they're answered towards the end. So we're going to move on and think a little bit now about our curriculum and why we've chosen the curriculum that we have before we move on to the options process itself. Mr. Haylock, are you happy to just speak about our sort of curriculum and
Absolutely.
The nature of it?
Not a problem, Ms. Williamson. So these are our key things. As I said before, it very much links to our values, both our Christian values and the Ark values. I've talked briefly about the fact that we really expect our curriculum to be academic. It's really, really key. We want a balance. We want to feel like everyone is included. We need to make sure that there's elements of diversity there, which is really, really key for us in terms of both the subjects that you can choose and the types of things that you will do in those subjects. Obviously at GCSE compared to Key Stage 3, we start to have a little bit less choice about what's in the syllabus, because we need to make sure that you're prepared and ready for the exam, which means, for example, in English, the choices of texts or poems is very much designed by the exam board. Similarly, with something like history, the units you study are quite tailored towards the syllabus and the choices that we've made. But we do, one of our key philosophies and key aims is that we make sure that things are as diverse as possible. We want it to be challenging. We really want you to do your best. As I said to you before, yes, we want you to keep learning, but we want you to aim high, and that needs to be really key. We want to have some variation and some ambition, and we want things to be empowering. So they are the key philosophies that sit behind our curriculum. Thank you, Miss. Ms. Williamson, you're on mute, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much, sir. So we'll move on to think about what exactly our curriculum looks like at Key Stage 4. So at Key Stage 4, we have a core 6 subjects that all students study. Okay, so every student who is in Key Stage 4 will study maths. They will study 2 GCSEs in English, that's English language and English literature. Everybody will do at least the equivalent of 2 GCSEs in science. So they will do science and additional science, and that will cover all 3 scientific areas, so physics, chemistry and biology. And every student also does a GCSE in RE. In addition to that, as Mr. Haylock said, we really prioritize the EBAC academic pathway because we know the opportunities that it opens for our students. So every student takes either geography or history to make sure they're getting that full rounded curriculum. We then move down to option B. Option B is either MFL, which at Burlington Danes is French, or a BTEC pathway. So the BTEC subjects that we offer are music, sports and media, and we'll go on to those in a little bit more detail later on. So everybody takes those core 6, one of geography or history from option A, and one of French or BTEC from option B. Then there's a little bit more choice going into option C and option D. And this is where there's a great deal of subjects that students might not have studied previously. So from option C, students can either take triple science, sociology, business or computing GCSE. They can take media and music BTEC or GCSEs in photography and PE. And when we move on to look at the options form, you'll see in detail exactly what it is that looks like, how that's structured. And finally, in option D, the final option, there's a range of different GCSE subjects, including some that students study already at Key Stage 3, but also some new subjects such as economics, sociology, and computing. So everybody who is in Key Stage 4, both in year 10 and 11, study 30 lessons per week. In addition to that, as Mr. Haylock has already said, they take core PE and they also follow our non-examined curriculum in tutor time. There are a lot of students at Burlington Danes who speak different languages at home, and we really celebrate that and are very happy to enter students for other languages in addition to French. So you will hear lots of information going into year 10 about the different heritage language GCSE options that there are, and we're really happy to support with entering students for those subjects. So if we move on to think about the options form, and students will have had a chance to look at this in the booklet which has been given out yesterday. So students start off by making sure you've got your name and your tutor group really clearly on there. That's essential. We've got over 160 year 9s. We need to make sure that we've got your correct information. So you can see at the top where it's got the core subjects. As we've already mentioned, everybody studies maths, English language, literature, RE, core physical education, and at least 2 GCSEs in science. So in that grey box at the top, there's nothing to select. The first area where you need to make a choice is whether you would like to study geography or history. Now you will have seen that we also have history running in option D block. So if you want to do geography and history, that's absolutely a possibility. We've got lots of students who choose to do both. So if that's the case, you would choose geography here and then history down in one of the options blocks. So for option A, you put a cross either next to history or next to geography. Then moving on to option B, you choose either to do French or one of the BTEC options. And we'll speak a little bit about the entry requirements for those things. If you are choosing a BTEC, then please put a first and a second choice for that. Obviously, we try our very best to give students the options that they most want, but sometimes we need to take second choices into consideration. And then finally, for both of option C and option D, you need to please choose a first choice and then a reserve from each list. So for example, looking at option C, you could choose perhaps photography as your first choice, but then put down computing as a backup for option C in case you weren't successful in getting a place on the photography course. Okay, so that's what the option form looks like. All of the year 9 tutors, Mr. Froimer, and everybody who teaches year 9 is really familiar with that form and very happy to support with filling it in.
Just one thing to add there, Ms. Williamson. So obviously some subjects can be far more popular than others. As a school, it's important obviously that we try to run as many different subjects as we can, but if we do have subjects with very, very small numbers of people that are choosing them, it might be the case that they would not run in both of the two blocks. So that would be why some of the change, you may have some parts of the process where we would obviously do our absolute best to make sure you can get the options that you can or that you wish, but equally we might be in a scenario where you have to do a second option or your reserve option, and obviously we will discuss that with you as part of the process.
Brilliant, thank you, Mr. Haylock. So, as I mentioned, for the options, there are certain entry requirements attached to some of them. These are detailed in the options booklet, which everybody has been given a printed copy of, and is also available electronically on our website. So for option B, for students looking to study French, you should be achieving at least a 3+ or a 4 consistently in your assessments in year 9. And that's something that we will review again to at the end of this academic year when you do your end of year assessments, to make sure that you've been achieving the grades required to take that for GCSE. And for the BTEC subjects in option B, for media, music and sport, it's really essential that you have an aptitude for, so talent in or skill for, and an interest in those subjects. There are lots of really hands-on elements to the BTEC subjects, so it's essential that it's something you're really interested in if you're choosing to go for one of those for Key Stage 4 study. And for some of the other options subjects, there are similarly entry requirements attached. So for triple science, you need to be consistently getting a 6 or above in science. Okay, the reason for that is not because we want to stop anybody from doing it, but we know that to be able to get the best grades in triple science, you have to be working at that level currently. And if you're not, you really won't be able to manage the content in the triple science GCSE. It's a lot more in depth than the double science that everybody does. And it's essential that you're working at a level currently that means you'll be able to access that. Some of the other new subjects are really things that students are excited about, and I've spoken to a lot of year 9s today about things like sociology and business and how much they're looking forward to studying. But for these subjects, it is essential that you're achieving a certain level, either in English, maths, or both. And again, that's because the content of those GCSE courses means it just won't be possible for you to access them if you're not currently working at that level. So for sociology, you need to be getting at least a grade 4 in English, in business for English and maths. For computing, you need to be getting a grade 4 in maths and have a real interest in computing. Again, it's a very practical, hands-on subject. So it's something to really look into, to read about, to watch the video and speak to Mr. Prasad, the head of computing, if you have questions. And for economics, we have a slightly higher requirement of a grade 5 or above in English and maths. And again, that's to make sure that you're able to fully access the content in that subject. And for the remainder of the options from option C and D, what's really essential is that you are interested in it. There's no point choosing a subject because you think it sounds good, because you know other people who are planning on doing it. What's absolutely essential is that you are interested in the subject. It's going to be a really big part of your life for the next 2 years. GCSEs are hard, they're a lot of work. We will give you a lot of support towards it, but the interest needs to come from you. So that's why it's such a big decision when you're choosing your options, so that you know you're going for something that you're going to be interested in. I just want to point out specifically for GCSE and PE. So as a reminder, everybody does core PE. Everybody will continue to have PE lessons in their curriculum. But in addition to that, we offer a GCSE in PE, as well as the BTEC in sports science. To do GCSE PE, you absolutely must be participating in sports outside of school. Okay, there's a practical element to the assessment, and if you're not taking part in teams or other clubs currently, then you're really going to struggle to meet that element of the GCSE for PE. Mr. Haylock, are you able to speak about tiered entries?
Yes, certainly. So there's only 3 subjects now which have tiers. So the rest of the subjects, English, history, geography, etc., they all students complete the same exam. And then the 3 subjects that have tiers are maths, science, and French. They have 2 tiers, higher or foundation. To answer a couple of questions that are in the chat, so our expectation is that the vast majority of students would do French, as I said, way above 75%. There is an option there to look at other things, but we will talk to students individually if they're interested in those. MFL stands for Modern Foreign Language, so that is our language is French. So the decisions are not made around the tiers now, they are made in year 11. Some of the decisions actually are being made as we speak, as we're looking towards the entries just in June. So the decisions are made quite late. All the students follow the same curriculum, no matter what kind of set they might be in, and then they would have the option to discuss with the teachers depending on how things are progressing, and they're doing very well and kind of consistently getting high 5s or 6s, etc. And then we would look to enter them for the higher tier, which is considerably more challenging content than in some of the other the work that you would do in the foundation. So we will work very carefully with the students to make sure that they're entered for the right tiers, and that they have the option to get the best possible grades.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Mr. Haylock. So thinking now about next steps. So it's really important that you do your research. Everybody has been given the printed booklet, which has got information about all of the courses in there. Even if you think you know what you would like to take, make sure you look at that in detail. It might be that a subject isn't exactly what you thought it was. It might be that there's a subject on offer that you weren't previously aware of. So you must make sure you do that research, you speak to teachers, you speak to your tutor, you speak to Miss Morris, myself, Mr. Haylock, or any member of staff to help you make that decision. You will then have an interview one-on-one with either a member of the Year 9 team or a member of the senior leadership team. And that's an opportunity for you to speak about your choices, to make sure that you've been fully informed about them and that you've filled in the form correctly and that you're going for the choices that you think are going to best support what you want to do in the future. So what you need to do is make sure that your form has been completed in advance of that interview. They're going to be starting next week, and you'll hear what time and what day your individual interview will be, either tomorrow or on Monday. And once you've done that, we will start the process of making sure that we can put people into the subjects that they want to do and that are going to suit them best. In the meantime, you're going to be studying really hard for your summer exams to make sure that you are able to get the grades that will best prepare you to go on to GCSE and BTEC study. Once you get those grades back in June, you will see if you've been able to get the entry requirements for some of those subjects, and you'll then receive your exam results and your options in July. So by the end of Year 9, you will know what it is that you're going to go on and study in Year 10, based on the grades that you've been able to get at the end of this year, which is why it's so important that you really make sure you put the effort in to those assessments, because we will take that into account when we're coming up with the options allocations for students. And just some final advice before we start thinking about some of the questions that have gone into the chat. And please remember, you can put questions in at any point. Make sure you read the booklet really carefully. We can't stress that enough. All of the information about the courses is in there, and it's up to you to make sure that you're fully informed. Watch the subject videos on the school website. Shortly, I'll put into the chat a link to the page about options, which has got all the information on there. It's got a video from every subject available for sociology, for business, and for sports science, so that you can hear from the head of department exactly what it is to study that subject at GCSE or at BTEC level. Talk about it at home. This is a big decision. It's one that your family will want to be involved in. You might have older siblings who've been through this process and who can give you some really great advice about it. Speak to your teachers. They are there to help you. They know in detail about this process. They want to support you to make sure you're doing the best possible options for you. Choose subjects that will help you later in life. That will be something that we speak about in the options interviews. Do you know what it is that you want to do yet? If so, we can help make sure you're choosing the options that you need to get to those future careers. Or if you're not sure what you want to do yet, we'll help make sure that you're keeping your options as wide open as possible, so that when it comes to choosing A-levels and other further courses, you've got a really good grounding at this stage. Make sure you go to your interview. It's up to you to get yourself there. Once you've been given your time, your teacher, your tutor will be aware of when it's going to happen, but it's up to you to make sure you're on time. And make sure, as I've said, that you're choosing a balanced set of courses so that you are keeping your options open for the future. And one final thing that we've not spoken about so far is thinking about the amount of coursework or independent work for each subject. In your options booklet, there's lots of detail about exactly how the course is examined. Okay, so it's really important that you look at that so that you've got a good idea of what your workload will be like. GCSEs are a lot of work, it's a lot of revising to make sure you're able to get the best possible grades, and it's really important to balance those different subjects. You mustn't choose subjects just because you like the teacher. That's not going to support you in the future. We've got loads of brilliant teachers at Burlington Danes. I can assure you that any GCSE you're going on to do, you will form a really close relationship with that teacher because of the amount of support that they're going to be putting in for you. But you can't just make that relationship with a teacher the basis for choosing something so important for your future. Don't listen to people saying certain subjects are just for boys or just for girls. We know that's absolutely not the case. And we would encourage you to just think about yourself and what you want to do with your life and what interests you. And don't choose a subject just because a friend is choosing it. You're not going to be inspired to work really hard if you've just chosen something for the sake of it. It's essential that you're choosing something that's of real interest to you.
So, Ms. Williamson, shall we move on to the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, super. So if you probably best if you compare them, and then I'll try and answer them as quickly as can. So I'm conscious we've been going for sort of just over half an hour, so we won't keep you for much longer. The first thing to say, and it answers a couple of questions, is that it's really important that you get your choice right now. So a couple of people have asked, can you change later? As I said, Ms. Williamson talked you through the kind of the timeline. So obviously the key is that we get you onto the right course by the end of this academic year, and we make sure that when you start year 10, you're starting on the options that you want to change, you want to do for the next 2 years. There can be some changes right at the beginning of the year, but there's a very, very small number, and it's really important that you get those choices done right now. Miss, I can't see what the next question would be.
Thanks, sir. I'll start comparing from here. So the next one is about triple science. Is it possible to do triple science in set 2, or is that just reserved for set 1?
No, so triple science is possible if you get the grades in your summer exams. It doesn't matter what set you're in.
Great, thank you very much. And then thinking about science again, it's something that's come up quite a lot in the questions. Is it possible to sort of pursue triple science later on towards the end of year 10 if you've been doing well in the double award?
So the short answer is, if you start the GCSEs in triple science, if you don't start at the beginning, you're going to be quite a long way behind because of the number of hours of science that they do have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Haylock. A few questions coming up about BTECs. So the level of those BTECs, and are they as valued as GCSEs?
Yeah, so the GCSEs and BTECs are the exact same equivalent in the Key Stage 4 performance tables, and they would lead you on to the same type of things in terms of A-levels. We think it's best to do the majority of GCSEs, but that is because the BTECs are a completely different way of working that involve a lot of controlled assessment and coursework, which sometimes students find challenging in terms of the amount of extra work that occurs during the year. But in terms of their actual kind of qualification level, they're the same.
Great, thank you. So just one more on BTEC, asking about if it's possible to do both GCSE PE and BTEC Sport.
No, we would need to look at that carefully because the two subjects have got quite a lot of crossover, and I'm not sure if that's allowed in the examination session, but we'll talk to you about that in your meeting.
Brilliant, thank you, Mr. Haylock. Thinking about how likely it is to get your first option.
It's impossible for me to say, to be honest. As you can see, there's a wide range of options there. I wouldn't really like to put a number on it, but we do like to get the majority into their first options, but it does depend on the number of people that they've chosen the subjects and the amount of different groups we can offer.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Mr. Haylock. A few questions have come up about languages, so specifically about home languages. We are able to give you support if you choose to pursue a home language. We can make sure that you're really well prepared for the exam, but we don't teach that language. So it does need to be you who's already at that stage where you're able to take a GCSE. If you're wanting to do a GCSE in a language, then we will assess you in about October or November to make sure that the level of your speaking and your writing is good enough. And if that's the case, then we can provide some extra support and tuition to prepare you for the exam itself. Is there an option for students to only do English language instead of doing both language and literature?
The short answer is no, because the English language and literature kind of complement each other really well. And they're taught at the same time by the same teacher. Our expectation is that students should do both, and they should do really well in both, and that's what we've seen in the past.
Great, thank you, sir. Couple of questions about the number of options. So you have the options for history and geography, which is option A, and then option B is either the French or BTEC, and then option C or D. So everybody is going to be choosing 4 options overall out of those different option blocks. Couple more questions about science, Mr. Haylock.
Okay.
Are you able to stay in set 1 if you're not doing triple science?
No, well, the setting changes, so there would be a triple science set based on the number of students that we have, and then we would organise the double science groups with the rest of the students.
Great, thank you, sir. And I'll just take a couple more questions that have come up about home languages. So if there aren't any teachers who speak it, absolutely, you're still able to do it. We enter students for every qualification. There's about 17 different languages in total. We will support you by getting in somebody who does speak the language fluently. and it's absolutely possible to do more than one home language. We've had very talented students in the past who've done as many as 3 extra GCSEs in home languages. So we'd really encourage you to do that. It's an incredible skill to have. Is it possible to do history and geography?
Yes, if you choose geography in the first block, then you can choose history as one of your other options.
Brilliant, thank you. And a couple of questions about EBAC. Do you need it to become a teacher?
As I said, it's not a specific qualification, but it is a set of qualifications that's highly recommended in terms of your CV.
Super, thank you, Mr. Haylock. Couple of questions have come up about grades. So what will we be basing this decision on? Is it grades right from the beginning of year 7? Is it grades for assessments in year 9?
Yep, it's exactly that. So it's based on your year 9 assessments that are coming up, but obviously if there are kind of let's just say some peculiarities or some oddities, we would look and discuss those with you and make sure that we make the right decisions.
Great, thank you, sir. Little bit of concern about the process of doing the interviews. So you have got a copy of the Pathways form in your booklet. So we would suggest that that is what you use to complete it at home. You sit down, discuss with your family and complete it on there. After that point, when you go to your interview, and the interviews will be held close to the year 9 corridor, so there's no chance of you getting lost when you're doing them. We will then have another copy of the form to fill in there and then in the interview. Okay, so you should complete it in your booklet at home, but then we'll have another fresh copy of it to go through in the interview itself. Mr. Haylock, if you choose to do either triple science or you do the double science, will there be experiments?
Yes, in both. There is a lot of academic work to do, but there are also specific investigations and experiments that you need to do.
Brilliant, thank you. And there have been a couple of questions about trips linked to the curriculum. Obviously, given the pandemic, it's not been possible to run trips over the past couple of years in the same way. We've got trips happening in year 10 next week and stretching into the future where they have a curriculum relevance and they're going to support your learning. We really want to encourage students to be able to get out and to put some of your learning into practice. A couple of questions about what teachers have taken for GCSE. That's a great thing to discuss with your teachers, with your tutors. People will really relish the opportunity to tell you what they enjoy doing for their GCSEs, and hopefully you'll find some teachers who've done some of the options that you want to do, which means they'll be able to give you a little bit of an insight into it. A couple of questions have come up about what if your grades are bad at the moment, but you're planning on improving by the end of this year? What would happen then, Mr. Haylock?
Well, that's the key, isn't it? The key is to work hard and to kind of concentrate on what you need to do in the next sort of 6 to 12 weeks before your assessments come up. So you'll have, for example, access to your Hegarty Maths, you had access to your Show My Homework, you should have your school Chromebook, you should have access to your Seneca account. There is lots and lots of work that you can do to improve. That is why we're here to help you. So if that's kind of the situation that you're on, or even if you're doing well at the moment and you want to do even better, now is your opportunity to really show us and show what you can do moving forward. So good luck to that person.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Haylock. Just so you're aware, I'm going to close the Q&A now. We'll answer a couple more questions as a discussion, and anything that's not then been answered, you'll get a typed response to your question. So we will answer everything that's come up, but we'll only get the chance now to answer a couple more during the meeting out loud, because we have reached the advertised finish time of the meeting. Is it possible for parents to attend interviews with students?
No, the interviews to start will be with the students themselves because they're in the middle of the school day. However, if there are any issues, we can pick that up with you in a separate meeting.
Great, thank you, sir. And then finally, and as I've said, any questions that have come up that we haven't been able to answer, you will get a typed response to them. So everything that's been asked, you will hear a response to. It might just be typed rather than answered now by Mr. Haylock or myself. Will this information be available so that parents and children can refer back to it?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Ms. Williamson? Sorry, I just missed you there.
Yeah, will this information be available so that parents and children can refer back to it?
Yeah, definitely. So lots of the information is in the booklet that you've been given, and we have lots of options for people to get in contact with us, either through your head of year or your form tutor, so we can get as much information out to you as we need. This is a really important decision, and we want you to make sure that you are as well informed as possible. I think we can probably send the PowerPoint slides out to parents as well, can't we, Ms. Williamson?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be sending out the PowerPoint slides, and I will just share now a link to the page on our website, which has got all the information about the options process on there. This is where you've got the links to the videos from the heads of department. There's a copy of the options form, there's an electronic copy of the options booklet, and as of tomorrow morning, a recording of this evening's event will be up there as well, so that you can go back, you can rewatch, look at certain key slides, etc. So thank you so much to everybody who has attended this evening, and especially to those people who've asked questions. As I've said, if you haven't already had a response, you'll get a typed response, which you'll be able to see just on your username. And then we will put up a Q&A on the website as well, based on any particularly regular questions that have come up. And I'll hand over to Mr. Haylock to round up the evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williamson. Yeah, thank you very much for attending. Hopefully it's been useful in terms of the information that we've provided. And as I said, this is not the end of the process. This is very much the start. So please talk to people, talk to your teachers, talk to your head of year, talk to your tutors, talk to us, get all of the information that you need so that when you make your option choices, you feel really well informed, you feel like you've got the information you need, and you can go into that kind of options meeting with a kind of really clear plan, and then we can support you moving forward with the next steps that you can make sure you start year 10 really well and be a great success at Key Stage 4. So thank you very much everybody for attending, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.